What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Chase Riley with CR Media. As you can see the tag there, CR Media 1988. This is episode 7 of Bad Booking, and it's been a little over a month since we did the last episode. Have got a lot of stuff going on. As far as my personal life goes, you guys should know that I'm married. We're raising 3 kids, so I got bills, mortgages, all that good stuff. Also have a house that my father left me that I am trying to get cleaned out and trying to get sold. That's where I'm at right now. I am in the basement, freezing my ass off. So bear with me here. Like I said, I wanted to take the time to do this. I was waiting on Seth to get done with his ventures because life is super crazy for him as well. But I decided that I want to continue doing the weekly episodes. So you will see my ugly mug every week. About seeing my ugly mug. As of right now, Bad Booking is going to be a strictly podcast show. The only reason we are doing videos is because I am going to upload the videos to YouTube, and that is it. We will no longer do live shows. I will no longer be posting it to the Facebook, to my Twitter, or any of that, even my Twitch. It is just going to be strictly podcast and YouTube, and that is it. Because I am trying to get my social media following up, and trying to explore a lot of ventures on there. With this content creation we're doing, and it is the Bad Booking is going to be used for the podcast and the YouTube side of it. So, with that being said, if you have not, if you are a first-time listener, or if you're watching on YouTube, or you just strictly listen on the audio, where we are. If you go to my social medias, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, and you search up CR Media 1988, you are going to find me. YouTube is like CR Media, but I will also have links to all those. But please, guys, if you have not, I would greatly, greatly appreciate the likes, the shares, the subscribes, all that stuff on the social medias. Like I said, trying to build a community, and we're starting off small. So again, guys, we greatly appreciate it. On TikTok especially, I think I'm almost at 350 followers on TikTok. I'm trying to get to 1,000 so I can go live to help saturate the market. So if you guys could help me out with that, that would be fantastic. Obviously, it's free of charge. There's no, I know I know like you have to pay a subscription if you're on Twitch. I'm not asking for that. I am just asking for the follows. So please, please, greatly appreciate it. The streams, like we were talking about Twitch. I do post some of my live streams to Twitch. As far as my AEW Post Dynamite show and my I-70 Hot Tag podcast that I do with my friend Josh Elliott, that is live streamed to my Twitch. And those, like I said, you can hit the follow button or be a subscriber. Completely up to you, but following is completely free. Watching them is completely free. You'll never have to pay. I think Twitch might put some ads on there if you're not a subscriber. That's Twitch's prerogative, not mine. But I also will be getting into some gaming as well. It's really hard right now trying to find, I want to do the camera on there, and every time I try to start the Xbox app, while I'm streaming, the Xbox app crashes. So I'm trying to work on getting a capture card. So obviously, if you want to help me out with that, the subscribe button on Twitch, any type of monetization helps. Any extra oomph will help out with that as well. The podcast, since we are talking about Bad Booking being a podcast now, the podcast is going to be exclusively on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music has a podcast section now, and then Google Podcast. You can find Bad Booking on any of those four. Like I said, you should look for the new episodes. I will be posting them during the weekend after I'm done editing them. Obviously, except for YouTube. But unless you have like a YouTube Music, I don't know if you can listen to it or whatnot. But if you download the podcast on any of those four, hit that subscribe button. Would greatly appreciate it. We are not sponsored by anybody. So I do not have any sponsors. My DMs, as the kids say, are wide open for anybody who would be interested in doing a sponsorship of any kind. Would love to, but I do have a partnership of sort with Super Draft Pro. And I will play the ad here to let you find out about Super Draft Pro. My link is there as well. If you're interested in learning about Super Draft Pro more than what the video states, definitely hit me up. Message me on any of my social medias, and I would be glad to, kind of sit you down and have a one-on-one discussion with you about Super Draft Pro.
Pro athletes have the dream job. They get paid to play games. The connection to sports and our fandom brings communities together. We see the business of sports as limitless. We all watch it or know someone who does. And now it's time for you to cash in on your sports IQ and get paid to play. These aren't just any kind of games. Play on Super Draft, the official fantasy partner of Caesars. Compete in exciting fantasy sports and free sports betting contests by subscribing to a plan with Super Draft Pro. Play for the love of the game and experience the most entertaining way to follow the sports you love. These mobile apps are live right now on iOS and Android. This rare opportunity is a massive game changer. You get to be an early adopter in a multi-billion-dollar global industry. So you're asking, how do I get started? We've made it simple. Sign up to be a coach, then build your team and offer a range of subscription packages to access games to play. So, now that you're aware of Super Draft Pro, can you build a street team of players and coaches who can cash in on playing games, getting others to play games, and playing games with them? Welcome to the future of sports fandom.
We were talking about, that is Super Draft Pro. It is daily fantasy sports, but instead of going in and selecting a game and paying, $1, $5, $20, $100 to join in on a daily fantasy sports game, you pay a membership. The memberships start out at $19, $50, and $100 a month. And depending on which level of membership you have, will depend on how many games you can play per day. But I have the $19 a month membership, and I depending on how many games, sports games are there a day, I could play up to 5 games. So it just depends. So definitely check it out. When you do, please do not forget to hit the link to copy that link, the superdraftpro.com/ChaseR1988. Obviously, that helps me out, and then helps me. The money that I get from Super Draft Pro, I'm going to put towards better equipment. I'm using a gaming headset right now. Would love to get a bar with a mic on it. Get another pair of headphones for that, or whatever. Also a desk, a chair. I'm in a barber's chair right now that my dad had. So definitely, like I said, would appreciate the help and appreciate the love. So getting into it, we're going to start off with the boxing news. Now, like I said, guys, it has been over a month since we did a Bad Booking episode. The last episode I did was in the middle of March. There's a lot of news to catch up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend this first episode back catching up on some of that news, a little bit of next week's episode catching up on that news till we're fully caught up, and it gives me plenty of content throughout the week. And so we'll go down boxing, MMA, and then end with professional wrestling. So one of the, obviously the biggest thing, we skipped out on boxing a couple of times. in the past couple of months, just because there wasn't a whole lot going on. There was some big news, but there wasn't a lot of stuff to kind of fill the content with, unless we were going to talk about, some of the undercards, or some of the lower promotions. But obviously, the big news. I'm recording this episode on April 22nd, 2022. On April 23rd, 2022, my birthday, by the way, I will be a whopping 34 years old. I feel old as shit. But I do and I don't. It's only when I think about it do I feel old. So when I don't think about it, it's like, oh, I'm 34. So, anyways, we are getting Tyson Fury against Dylan White. This is going to be a huge fight, especially because as of right now, Tyson Fury is claiming that this is going to be his last fight. He's 33 years old, much like myself, until tomorrow. He's 31-0 with one tie. He's had 22 knockouts. Tyson Fury has had a fantastic boxing career. So he, like I said, he says this is his last fight. There's a lot of speculation of maybe not, because I know Tyson wanted to do another fight with Usyk, but Dylan White was first in line, and he turned down. They offered him money. They offered Dylan White money to turn down this fight so Tyson Fury could fight Usyk, and Dylan White said no. So Dylan White is definitely worthy of this title shot. He was a sparring partner with Tyson Fury, and Dylan White he's got a lot of hard hits, but as far as my predictions go, this is going to be in Wembley Stadium with 94,000 people, and that's fantastic to see Tyson Fury over there, with that many fans packed inside Wembley Stadium. Wembley Stadium is a phenomenal venue. I'm super excited that WWE is heading back there, after 30 something years, and we'll get on that later. But Wembley Stadium, 94,000 people. Tyson Fury claims it's his last fight ever. This is huge, and they've also stated that there's going to be no British judges. So there's so to escape a possibility of bias, but so no British judges inside Wembley Stadium for this fight. I honestly believe that Tyson Fury will finish this fight. I've got him doing a TKO in between rounds 8 and 10, and I think that Tyson will kind of mix his styles a little bit. You're going to see a lot of punching, but you're also going to see some mindset boxing, some defense. So, like I said, I've got Tyson Fury TKO, but with that being said, I would not, if I woke up Sunday morning and found out that Dylan White knocked Tyson Fury out, I wouldn't be surprised at all. This fight is going to be very close. Like I said, I am super excited for this fight, especially if this is Tyson Fury's last fight. It's definitely going to be a good one. There's a good undercard there. Obviously Tyson Fury's younger brother, Lowe and Ball, and Romero. I'm a huge fan of Romero. I think this is going to be, like I said, Wembley Stadium, 94,000 people. This is definitely going to be a good card. I am very excited about it. I am in between jobs right now. Just a little bit of personal information there for you if you're interested. So between my I-70 Hot Tag podcast of, where we put over Kansas and Missouri independent professional wrestling, and I'm trying to make it to a lot of these shows, and all that good stuff. Paying anywhere between $50 to $70 to watch this fight, just is not feasible right now. Even though it is on my birthday, so maybe something changes. We'll see. But I am definitely I'm definitely interested in catching a replay later down the road when my situation irons out. So with that being said, like I said, there's not a whole lot of stuff going on with boxing, and because we are behind, we are going to move on. So that, like I said, that does it for our boxing portion of Bad Booking. As far as MMA goes, so MMA has had a lot of stuff going on, a shit ton. And there was so much news in March. Like I said, between the MMA, UFC news in March and the professional wrestling news in March, I've had to split this off into two shows. There's going to be, there's going to be a lot to cover in the next couple of weeks, as long as we, stay consistency. Like I said, I am so busy right now, even not working full time. I'm super busy between my AEW Dynamite post show, my I-70 hot tag, and then my friend James Howell and I are still doing our James House Chiefs Talk. So between all that, I will get these weekly episodes out. So, and all I'm saying with that is that we are going to spread out the news from March and April. And one of the first things I wanted to talk about with mixed martial arts in the UFC is last time we did a show. It was a live show with my friend Jordan. He goes by Dare Prims on social media. He's a vlogger. He's a photographer, a full-time photographer. He recently stopped doing a 9-to-5 job to become a full-time photographer. So huge shout out to him. Much love. He also does a podcast with with a family member of his named Evan, and it's called the Strange Crew podcast. Definitely, I will link them. Jordan's not on it all the time. Jordan has kind of sporadically been on it, because he's been so busy with family and work. But definitely, I listen to the Strange Crew podcast. Much love to Evan, and I appreciate Jordan and everything he did, helping me out with that episode. So, when we did the Bad Booking episode 6, the UFC fight between Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal was taking place that day. And if you go back and listen to it, which I would greatly appreciate if you would, if you go back and listen to it, we talked about how, Colby had taken kind of not a page, because Colby's kind of done it too, not saying that he ripped the idea from Conor, but we talked about how Colby and Conor both, where we've seen, people in UFC mixed martial arts, they have taken these press conferences and interviews to take the opportunity to take shots at people. And you go back and watch the Conor and Poirier one, where Conor was, just belligerent about, Dustin's wife and all that other stuff, and really kind of crossing the line, especially with Khabib, when their fight happened. He attacked Khabib's father. He attacked Khabib's religion. He attacked. It was crazy. And while the drama to it makes for great TV, obviously I'm a huge professional wrestling fan. I've said it before on Bad Booking. I love I love the drama of it. At some point it becomes too much. Like, hey, you're crossing a line. Because at the end of the day, there's not guys backstage writing scripts for these guys. These guys are going out and really breaking each other's jaws. So when you've made derogatory comments about somebody's wife, somebody's family, somebody's religion, you have to be willing to accept the consequences. And like I said, that's what we talked about with Kobe Covington on that last episode. And shortly after, Kobe Covington wound up, taking over the win at UFC. But shortly thereafter, Kobe was at a restaurant, and Jorge told him, like I said, not condoning it or whatever, but Jorge had made the comment to him. He's like, I'll see you outside," and that's exactly what happened. Jorge saw Kobe at a restaurant and walked in and punched him. Did some physical damage to him, and according to Kobe Covington, messed up his $90,000 watch, causing $15,000 worth of damage to it. So Jorge was charged with aggravated battery and criminal mischief. Now, obviously, when the assault happened, Jorge ran off, but Jorge wound up turning himself into the police department. And there's I haven't read a whole lot about it. Like I said, he's been charged. Obviously, there's going to be when he turned himself in, he was arrested. He bonded out. So I'm sure there's going to be a future court date sometime down the road. I would expect it to be sooner rather than later. That's usually how those things go. If he reaches a plea deal, is a completely completely different situation. So this could affect his future fights. From what I was reading, he was trying to start a promotion, and the Athletic Sports Commission in Nevada have had to put that on hold because of his last two arrests. This one and then a prior one. So this really hurt Jorge Masvidal. But like I say, and I get it. I'm right there with everybody. Everybody's like, well, that was stupid. He shouldn't have done that. And I agree. But at the same time, how far do you let somebody push those buttons? Talk about your wife, talk about your kids. And Jorge told him, like, he went on Twitter, and said, yo, you shouldn't have said something about my kid. You shouldn't have said shit about my kids. And that's where we are. So, like I said, I wholeheartedly understand. I agree. Jorge shouldn't have done this. I'm not saying Kobe was asking for it. I'm not saying Kobe deserved it, but I am posing the question: how far are we going to let, or how far does somebody let somebody do stuff like that? Talk about your family, talk about your wife, talk about your religion, before it finally becomes a situation where it's like, okay, now it's going to get violent and possibly get worse in the future. So, like I said, some of those press conferences, they make for good TV. The drama aspect of it and everything. But if I'm the UFC, I'm thinking about, what are we going to do in the future to prevent situations like this? So, the next story that was, I've wanted to talk about is Nate Diaz. So, Nate Diaz has been very vocal on social media, and he claims the reason why he's vocal on social media is because the UFC won't answer him back. He has requested a release from his contract, and he took to Twitter to do so. Made it very clear that he wants out. He said, quote, "I've got shit to do." He wanted to fight Conor, and then he talked about fighting Dustin Poirier, and nothing was, the UFC kind of ignored it. And so Diaz, Diaz, like I said, has been very vocal about wanting out to pursue other things outside the UFC. And I'm a huge Nate Diaz fan. I like Nate Diaz a lot. I will tell you on this situation though, I'm gonna have to disagree with Nate. Nate's had two fights and lost them. One for that BMF championship to Jorge Masvidal, and then another one to Leon Edwards. And you're out here on social media demanding a fight against Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. And so that's why the UFC, in my guess, the UFC is just not willing to, the UFC is just not eager to jump the gun to get you back in the octagon, especially against those two, when there's talks of other fights for those two. Um, you know, Granted, from another perspective, you've got you know Nate Diaz is definitely a crowd favorite. He's definitely somebody who can sell tickets. So I get that. And I know that Nate wants to make money. That's what Nate's in the business for. That's what they're all in the business for. But at the same time, like I said, you're sitting here and you've got two fairly big losses under your belt. Um, you know, and so demanding these matches, these matchups, demanding these fights, uh, you know, it's just not a good look. And if he wants out of his contract, I would tell the UFC to go ahead and do it. But like I said, I don't know if the UFC is so eager to let him out of that contract because, like I said, he does put asses in seats. He sells tickets. He's one of the most popular stars the UFC's ever had. So I'm very curious about it. Uh, Let me do this. Let me ask you, the listeners, who would you like to see Nate Diaz fight? Conor McGregor or Dustin Poirier, or do you want to see Nate get out of his UFC contract and go do something else? Let me know. Like my Twitter handle, you saw it at the beginning of the stream. And if you're listening, again, it is at CR Media 1988. Tweet me, DM me. Let me know who you would like to see Nate Diaz fight against next. Me personally, I would love for him to fight Dustin Poirier next. I'm not ready for the. I don't think it's that I'm not ready. It's just I don't have any interest to see McGregor Diaz 3. I think if we were going to see Diaz McGregor 3, it should have been at least 2 or 3 years ago. But it never happened, and like I said, I have no interest in that. I would like to see Poirier and Diaz. So the next news. So Chael Sonnen, um, you know, uh, Chael Sonnen back in December was involved in an incident in with a gentleman and his wife. And some of these details I'm going to leave out because some of the details are pretty disturbing. These accusations. Um, you know, Obviously, he's being charged. He wasn't, he's not been convicted. He's being charged. So obviously these are all alleged right now until he is actually convicted. But he was charged with a misdemeanor battery charge in January from the incident in December, and it was dismissed without prejudice. Uh, and I'm not exactly sure why. So the charges were refiled, and this time it's a felony count of battery by strangling and 10 other misdemeanor counts of battery. Well, on Wednesday, March 30th, um, the 10 charges were dropped down to 6. So there's still a lot going on with this story. Like I said, some of the details are disturbing. Definitely go look it up. Obviously, if if you haven't, if you have, you know what's going on. Just kind of to give my 2 cents on it. Um, you know, I'm a huge Chael Sonnen fan. I used to love Chael. He's part of my childhood growing up watching the UFC, and so it's a shame. If these allegations are true, it's a shame. I you see, like we talked about earlier with the Jorge Masvidal and Kobe Covington thing, where shit just gets out of hand and gets explosive. You know, and you see a lot of these UFC fighters, MMA fighters, who get mixed up in incidents like this when they're out in public and somebody says the wrong thing to them, or they get upset, or whatever. So it sucks. It definitely is definitely not something I want to see. Let's leave it in the octagon, and that's kind of like my stance on it. So if these accusations are true, I know that a lot of times people in situations like Chels, come into situations where a lot of the details, a lot of the pins and needles, so to speak, of the details are left out. I don't know if that's the case in this situation. I can't speak to that. What I can speak is based on the accusations. I hope they're not true. But if it is, it sucks because, like I said, I am a huge Chael Sonnen fan. So, next up in the MMA news is our friend Francis Nagano. Francis is the UFC heavyweight champion. And in that last fight against Gagne, he actually tore his MCL and had a little bit of an ACL issue as well. He had surgery on it. I think they're talking about the surgery, was a success. So good for him. Hopefully, wishing him a speedy recovery. He is going to be looking in contract negotiations with Dana White and the UFC. And he, as we have talked about on past episodes of Bad Booking, Francis Ngannou is very vocal about fighter pay, and creating a better pay structure for these guys to go in there, especially when the UFC is pulling in as much money as they're pulling in, and these guys are getting a fraction of it. And we've brought up how Bellator's heavyweight champion makes almost twice of what Francis made. Now, Seth brought up on that episode how Bellator and a lot of these other MMA promotions let their fighters do sponsorships, whereas UFC has limited the fighters to certain sponsorships. So that's why a lot of these guys are making more money. And if that's the case, then hey, let's let them go back to doing certain more sponsorships so they can make more money. So granted, while we're talking about Francis, his contract negotiations are going to determine what the UFC does with the heavyweight division, a heavyweight division that is finally starting to look, pretty solid, after years of kind of being in flux. We're kind of we've got a solid heavyweight division in the UFC, and you've got a champion who is looking at, a new contract or possibly walking. Because Francis has talked about going and doing boxing to make money, or going and doing other ventures outside of the UFC, and as to prove a point that he needs to be able to, make the money that he feels like he deserves, and rightfully so. The possible fight we've looked at, the possible fight that they've talked about, future fight, is John Jones, which would be a fantastic. It would be a big fight to have Francis Ngannou versus John Jones for the heavyweight championship on a UFC pay-per-view. And And the UFC has talked about having John Jones. If Francis has gone away too long because of surgery and because of pursuing other ventures, they're talking about an interim champion, and John Jones fighting for that. So if that happens, eventually, um, you know, eventually at some point in the crossroad, we would need to see Francis versus John Jones. And like I said, I think that's a big money fight, and I think the UFC should capitalize on that. But we also need to see where these where this fighter pay argument that has been hammered so much in the past 6 months. We need to see where that's going to go. And when fighters aren't getting benefits and whatnot. Granted, they're independent contractors. I get that, but when the UFC is making you know a, an ungodly amount of money, and they're giving such a small fraction of it to the fighters, there's just something that needs to change, and I cannot hammer that enough. Like I said, I know we have hammered it 1,000 times on this show, but I'll hammer it 1,000 times more. Um, so speaking of fighters, UFC fighters, venturing into different projects, that kind of kills it for our MMA news. We will jump into the wrestling news here, and Paige Van Zant is now all elite. So Paige is one of many mixed martial artists who have left the MMA world, whether it's Bellator, or other small promotions in mixed martial arts, or even the UFC, and gone to wrestling, professional wrestling. And this I'm excited about. I think this is a really great move for Paige. I think that it's a great move for AEW. I think that as long as we don't see, um, you know, one of my complaints, and I get it because they're legit fighters, they're legit badasses. But one of my biggest complaints in with the MMA fighters going to professional wrestling is that they've made them look unbeatable. Now, I don't think that this will happen with Paige Van Zant. And I think that Paige will be green for a while, but Paige has the look, and Paige has a lot better camera skills. She's a lot better on the camera than, let's say, a Ronda Rousey. Ronda's, obviously still, she looks good in the ring for the most part. Obviously she took some time off, and she needs to get better, but I mean, she's not god awful by any means necessary. The biggest issue that Ronda has is her mic skills. And I've always said, hey, like, she needs a mouthpiece, Paul Heyman or somebody to do the talking for her, so to accentuate the positives and hide the negatives. Well, with Paige, I think we haven't seen her in ring yet, but I know she's working really hard, training, which is good. So as long as Paige can get uh, the mechanics down, and get the in-ring stuff down, I think that she'll have the look and the mic skills. Because she's for somebody just coming in, she's not that bad on the stick, and I don't hate it. So, uh, you know, like I said, she's better than Ronda on that stick. So that's crazy to say. But I'm excited to finally see her in-ring debut. Um, you know, Other people that have come from that world, just to name a few. This isn't anything new. They've been doing this for years. Dan Severn used to do it. Ken Shamrock. We've had plenty of MMA, kickboxing, UFC people come over into the wrestling world. But just to name a few people from recent memory, We're looking at Sonya Deville, uh, Ronda Rousey, Marina Shafir, Matt Riddle, Shayna Baszler, the fourth member of the Four Horsewomen of MMA. I forgot her name, but she was there with Marina Shafir and Shayna Baszler in NXT. So like I said, this isn't the first time. You know, Ronda Rousey's not the only one to do it. And like I said, I don't mind doing it if they invest, if the company that brings them over and the fighter are willing to invest in the time to get better, to learn this business. I'm all for it. So I think Matt Riddle's awesome. Out of those people I've named, I think Matt Riddle and Shayna Baszler are killing it. Sonya Deville, I think she was more of like a jiu-jitsu, but she had a fantastic in-ring career, and she's starting to get back in the ring. So I like I said, don't have a problem with this at all. I am super excited to see Paige's debut. Speaking of All Elite, the last time we were live, or the last time we had a bad booking episode, we were live, and my friend Jordan, it was prior to that episode of Dynamite where Jeff Hardy debuted. So Jeff Hardy has indeed debuted. He made the infamous run in where he's dancing and doing the thing on the way to the ring to save Matt while Matt's getting his ass kicked. It was good stuff. We talked about it on the AEW Dynamite post show. Uh, Jeff literally waited until I think it was just a couple days after his 90-day no-compete clause. So, it was right as Jeff got in there. Jeff made it very clear to people that he was going to AEW. I know that there was some controversy online where somebody had shared a video of, one of Jeff's meet and greets that I didn't go to, that I bought tickets to and I didn't go to, but somebody had their camera on and was interviewing him, and he said, yeah, I'm going to AEW. And so, there was a lot of controversy about that video that, WWE was possibly going to look at a tampering lawsuit because, the 90-day no-compete clause. As of right now, nothing has come of that, but, Jeff looked extremely happy. And in the weeks that Jeff has been there, in the month, a little over a month that Jeff has been in AEW, he looks like he's having fun with his brother. Jeff is 44 years old. Matt is 47. Obviously, this is kind of they are both looking at this as their last run, so to speak, and rightfully so. Those guys have had a tremendous career, but on top of that, they have taken a lot of bumps and gone through a lot of shit in their 20-year, 30-year career. So to know that those guys will not be pulling, a Ric Flair or a Hogan or any of these guys that wrestled into their 50s. Like I said, this will be it for the Hardy Boys, and really cool because we're getting the Hardy Boys as a tag team, and I guess with this being the final run, I have to ask, is this going to be? Is there going to be a singles run for Jeff in AEW? Possibly a title run, whether that's the TNT title or the AEW Championship. I know at some point, I believe at some point, we're going to get Darby Allin versus Jeff Hardy, which will be very cool. I'd like for them to do a heel versus face thing and not do, this as, like a respect angle, where they're just fighting to fight. If you're gonna be doing coffin drops, off of ledges and swanton bombs through tables and stuff like that, I need to see a little bit of emotion for it. Not just, hey, we should fight out of respect. So whether that's Darby turning on Jeff or Jeff turning on Darby, whatever the case is, I would, like I said, I would like to see there be a little bit of animosity there. So, as far as the title run goes, guys, I don't see Jeff as the guy to win the championship in AEW. I could be wrong. I know Tony Khan is a huge fan of Jeff Hardy, but I just don't see them. I don't see Jeff beating a Daniel Bryan or a Bryan Danielson or a Hangman Adam Page or a CM Punk for the world champion. Actually, I can see him. I can see him and CM Punk fighting, and him beating CM Punk for the AEW championship. But I just don't know if I don't know if CM Punk's going to get there. So, that's just my personal thought. But like I said, at 44 years old, reunited with his brother, it looks like it's their last run. These guys are having fun, and I can't wait to see what they do in the future with these two guys. So, continuing the AEW news. So this is huge, and the reason why this is huge is because it's brought a lot of uncertainty within like the wrestling community, and a part of that uncertainty comes rumors, and rumors are sometimes fun, and rumors are sometimes really, really stupid. And I'm being sarcastic. They're most of the time really stupid. And it's just crazy because rumors have been running rampant that, with the purchase, with Discovery purchasing Warner Media, and this big merger, as I've got the graphic on the screen here, this is what now is all under this Discovery Warner Media merger. So, obviously TBS and TNT. There's been a lot of talk that Discovery is not interested in that Discovery wants a family-friendly product, not the more in the demo that AEW talks about, that 18 to 35 or whatever it is. Demo that AEW is always cracking jokes about and always emphasizing on. There's a lot of rumors going around that Discovery is not interested in that type of product, that they're interested in more of a family-friendly product. Like I said, there's no truth to these rumors, but of course people in the internet wrestling community have run rampant with it. Like, hey, like, this is the downfall. This is WCW in 2001 all over again, when AOL and Time Warner merged, and AOL had no interest in professional wrestling. So this is kind of the same thing. It may look like AEW wants to go to a PG product. If AEW goes to a PG product, they're going to lose guys like Minoru Suzuki and who's not even contracted with them. He's with New Japan Pro Wrestling, but he's people saying that Suzuki's not going to do any more work for him. They're not going to be able to do those gimmick death matches like they do, and Jon Moxley's going to leave because Jon Moxley, is not interested in a PG product. And it's crazy because it's really crazy, and it's really laughable. Because the same people on the IWC that I've seen say this kind of stuff are the same people that are like, well, if Cody Rhodes went back to WWE, I guess Moxley's going to go back to WWE. And so it's like, in one breath you just said that Moxley left WWE because of a PG product and doesn't want to go back, so he's going to leave AEW if Discovery makes AEW go PG. And in the next breath you've said, Moxley's going back to WWE because we've seen Cody Rhodes go back to WWE. So, like I said, the internet wrestling community is a funny place to be. It's a great place to be, but it's also very funny. There's some characters out there. So, a lot of great people, mostly great people, but some characters. So, And I'm not blaming the internet wrestling community on spreading these rumors. I'm saying that like they'll get a hold of these rumors and then they'll try to run with them. And it's like, come on, guys, let's take a step back before we start, um, breathing all over these crazy, you know, like I said, the Discovery not wanting AEW or wanting AEW to be a PG product, not what they have been, and wanting to revamp AEW is there's no truth to that at all. There's been no reports of it. There has been nothing. It's just people, you know, conjuring stuff up out of thin air. So, um, is this going to be like WCW in 2001? No, I don't. I don't think it is. As one of the things you'll see over there is HBO Max is under that Warner Media, obviously, because it's owned by Warner Brothers. That's why a lot of Warner Brothers movies will go straight to HBO Max. Out of theaters. The Batman was just released last month, and the Batman is already on HBO Max. So, like I said, HBO Max is owned by Warner Brothers, and there has been a lot of speculation that Tony Khan, again, rumors that Tony Khan and HBO Max will have a streaming. That's why he purchased the ROH library, so he has content. It also helps with it will also help with their buy rates, et cetera, et cetera. If that's true, I think this will do nothing but be beneficial to them with Discovery purchasing Warner Media, because then Discovery can say, hey, let's go ahead and get that. Let's go ahead and get that on HBO Max, or let's go ahead and get that on a streaming service of some kind, so we have content, so we can get some subscribers in, etc. So I don't see, like I said, I don't see this being a WCW 2.0. I see this as I see this as being a very, very great opportunity for AEW moving on in the future. So but we will definitely see. I also believe, if they're able to move into a streaming service, you could see more stuff being done with the ROH brand. So, like I said, we'll see, but I am definitely excited for it. One of the things that happened in the wrestling world in March was very unfortunate. What you see here is Big E on an episode of SmackDown was flipped over and dropped on his head. In a match or in a move with Ridge Holland. And before kind of get into it, I've seen a lot of mixed reactions online about it when it happened. There was a lot of flack for Ridge Holland, which I thought was very unwarranted. In professional wrestling, guys, you're going to have accidents. It's going to happen. This was not this was in nowhere near kind of how we've seen in the past. Certain wrestlers who are very stiff, very hard to work with, very not careful with who they're in the ring with, and I don't think Ridge is one of those people. Like I said, I think this was a bad accident, and I think that I think Ridge has gotten a lot of heat from people online about this, and I can only imagine where Ridge Holland stands. Ridge probably feels like shit, but again, you have to understand that these things, it's the nature of the business. It's gonna happen. It's never going to be perfect. You're never going to, it doesn't matter if you're the best wrestler in the world. It doesn't matter, what it is. There's going to be botches, so to say. There's going to be things that aren't going to go the way you want them to, and accidents are going to happen. And unfortunately, this was a major accident. But according to Big E, kind of just to give a little bit of context here, according to Big E, He's in great spirits. It looks like he's going to make a full recovery, hopefully. So if and when he comes back to the ring, um, I'm hoping things change for him because, they had Big E set for a big push. He won the championship, and then they took the championship off of him, and they from my point of view, pulled the rug out from underneath him. WWE Creative did because they sent him back to SmackDown to be with New Day after they separated him and had him on Raw. Which I was okay with as long as they were going to make Big E a main event contender. Which, like I said, after he dropped the championship, they kind of pulled the rug out from underneath him, and I'm not too fond of that. You know, so I'm hoping that if and when Big E comes back, hopefully, this will, hopefully something will change. Maybe they'll have something different for him. Maybe this time off will be good for WWE Creative to kind of reset how they see Big E. That would be fantastic. But a speedy recovery. Like I said, there's no telling what will happen when he comes back, but hopefully it changes. So, some good news here. I thought this was very interesting. When I very first saw the news come out, I wanted to, I was very excited to bring it up on Bad Booking. The young lady on the right is Santino Marella's daughter. And in March, she signed a developmental deal with WWE. And she is signed to the Performance Center. And it's pretty awesome to see the guys who, I grew up watching. I was a young adult when Santino debuted and was wrestling, but like I said, it was very, very awesome to see, his daughter wrestling. And there's a lot of other professional wrestlers who I grew up watching who have kids in the business now. The Rock's daughter was just signed to the Performance Center in 2020. From my knowledge, she's still there. So it's very cool to see that, and I thought that was very interesting to bring up. And Santino Marella won the Intercontinental Championship his first night in WWE. So it would be very interesting to see, what they do with his daughter if she's able to make that next jump. So very excited, definitely pushing for her. Like I said, Simone, the Rock and Danny Garcia's daughter, who the Rock and Danny Garcia are actually busy revamping and restarting the XFL that's going to launch next year. So like I said, huge fan of seeing things like that come full circle. So the WWE announced in March that they were going to be doing a pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia. Now, anybody who knows me knows in the past that I have been very critical of WWE with this Saudi Arabia deal. This is kind of WWE's first monthly pay-per-view that they've announced. They announced that TLC will be taking place in Saudi Arabia. So this is kind of like their first monthly pay-per-view or premium live event, whatever you want to call it. It's not a special like Crown Jewel or the Greatest Royal Rumble or any of those other ones that they've had over there. And obviously, like I asked the question of, are we going to start seeing more events there? I think so. WWE did sign a 10-year deal with them. Like I said, I've been very critical in the past. As I've mentioned on the last episode of Bad Booking, Vince had just done that interview with Pat McAfee on the Pat McAfee Show, and I thought he gave a fantastic response. Regardless of how you feel about it, Pat asked about the controversial decision to work with Saudi Arabia on to go to Saudi Arabia and do these events, and Vince said, hey, there's different regions, different religions in the world, you know, and these guys may have a different one, you know, and I can't, verbatim say what exactly he said, but, he just said, like, hey, like, it's different in different places in the world, and, that doesn't condone their beliefs, that doesn't condone their actions, but what it does say is, like, hey, like, there's never going to be progress if we don't meet somewhere in the middle. And what I will, and after listening to you know, Vince's interview and Vince's response to that on the Pat McAfee show, I did think about it a lot. And you have to think back of, that 10 years ago, they would have never, ever let, women come over in that event. And we just had the Elimination Chamber there. And they had the Women's Elimination Chamber there. So, that's really awesome to see that, to see women, women being in the role that they're supposed to be in, you know, to get opportunities, to be free, to be freely in those environments. So like I said, I know that I have been critical of the Saudi Arabia thing in the past. Obviously Vince's words didn't, make me do a 180 on it, but after he said that, I did do some, some deep thinking about it, and it sucks. There's certain places in the world where, women don't have right. LGBTQ, people don't have rights. And you see WWE taking a $1 billion check from Saudi Arabia, and you're like, well, it's blood money. They just want to make money. But at the same time, if that was the case, then I don't think WWE would try to negotiate. I don't think WWE would try to negotiate with Iraq or Iran when, when they had Natalya and Sasha Banks have a match there, the first female wrestling match there. In Saudi Arabia, you had the Women's Elimination Chamber there. All these things that WWE has done, and like I said, you can say it's for blood money, but the fact that they have pushed, and they are trying to do something. They're trying to do a little bit more. They're trying to inch a little bit more every single time they go over there. It makes you think of it a different way. That's all I'm saying. So, if now I don't think WWE is going to solve the persecution of women in the Middle East. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that it is to see any type of change in the positive that has been done in the past 15 years. It's cool. So, and hopefully we'll continue seeing positive change like that. So, a 10-year deal they signed in 2018. So we have Saudi Arabia events until 2028. So it's crazy to think about, but we'll see where everything goes. It'll be very cool to look in 2028. WWE will probably sign another 10-year deal as it gets closer. But in 2028, it'll be very cool to kind of look back and say, hey, think we've come a long way, hopefully. So, as a society, as everything else in the Middle East, I hope that we're able to look and say, hey, that this is improvement, but we're miles from where we were. So that's good. That's inspiring. So, on that note, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Bad Booking, where we talk about boxing, MMA, and professional wrestling. We kind of mix it all in. Like I said, I usually have a co-host here, guys. My co-host has been MIA. While he is MIA, you will get this beautiful mug every week. I will be back next week, and on next week's episode, we are going to talk about WrestleMania weekend and how WrestleMania weekend has made a lot of money for the professional wrestling industry, because of what all Dallas, Texas entailed. And next week you'll get to watch me cry, because every single time I think about all the content creators and everybody who got to go to WrestleCon and WrestleMania in Dallas, Texas that weekend, it breaks my heart because I had the opportunity to go. And I'll tell you what, when watching them go, I I made a proclamation to myself that come hell or high water, nothing was going to stop me from going to WrestleMania next year in Los Angeles, at SoFi Stadium. So I've already got the budget, already got it budgeted, already got the funds separated, waiting to find out how much tickets to everything is going to be. But next week we will talk about WrestleMania weekend and all of the glory involved with it, as far as WrestleCon and all that good stuff. We will talk about the results from this boxing match between Tyson Fury and Dylan White. And we will also be looking at various other MMA news that we missed out on in March, heading into the beginning of April. Other than that, I appreciate you guys like crazy. The support you guys have shown me on my social medias, the support you guys have shown on the streams, the support you guys have shown with this podcast. It means the world to me. I am just some old fat guy trying to have fun, and so far I am. So I greatly appreciate it. Again, guys, just to plug, CR Media 1988. You can find me on all social medias. Please do not forget to hit that like button, that follow button, share it out to your friends. I would greatly appreciate it. For me, for my co-host, this is Bad Booking. It's such good shit. So, other than that, good fight, good night.